All right, guys, our next guest has been doing great things as the managing editor for Flow Sports. He now joins us to discuss UFC 205 and all the crazy news that has come out this week. Oh, and he also lists himself as a barbecue expert on his Twitter bio. So, guys, without further ado, Jeremy Botta, welcome back to Submission Radio.
Yeah, good to be back. The last time I was on your show, it's kind of a crazy night. So let's hopefully we can avoid me having a total meltdown again, like I did last time.
It was a crazy experience. One we'll never forget. But I mean, I think a lot of people enjoyed it. On to more positive things. I mean, Dennis mentioned the barbecue. We love barbecue down here in Australia as well. So tell us, just curious, Jeremy, if there's a special occasion and you break out the barbecue, we know you're down in Texas. What kind of meat are you doing, and how are you doing it?
Oh, no, I mean, I've never had Australian barbecue, so I don't know what you are referring to when you're calling it barbecue, but I mean, here, we're talking about, slow smoked brisket. I mean, and the cool thing about being at Flow Sports is within about 2 square miles of our office downtown Austin, we've got 4 of the top 5 barbecue places in Texas.
Oh, wow.
And Texas barbecue is the best Texas. I mean, the best barbecue. Everybody knows that, I think, at this point. And so dude, like, the problem is, like, when I first moved here, I was like eating barbecue every single day.
That's a problem. What do you mean? That's not a problem at all.
Well, I mean, that's not a problem, but the 20 pounds that I put on, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I don't eat it as often as I used to. But I'm getting married in March, and we're gonna have our wedding is gonna be catered by the #1 barbecue restaurant in the world. So it's gonna be I will never give up barbecue. Let's put it that way.
Oh, well, you know what? If we ever get down there in Texas, you got to show us where these spots are. We're always trying to chase them down here in Australia. So I'm very excited about a potential trip down to Texas. But while we're talking about barbecue, Jeremy, how about this transition? Things have been hot in the MMA world with the full UFC 205 card finally being announced. Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor being added in the 11th hour. Just on the announcement itself, what did you make of the way this fight was put together, with Khabib receiving 2 contracts to fight Eddie at both UFC 205 and 206, and then the last-second swerve? What did you make of it, and what did you think was the big hold-up in announcing McGregor-Alvarez? Did it really come down to the last minute?
Well, it's funny. It did come down to the last minute, but it was actually, I mean, when Conor said that he had agreed to the fight 10 days before, that's actually true. He did. And what happened is that, I mean, Eddie Alvarez was holding out for more money. To fight Conor, he wanted more money, and he refused to fight him. And so they said, okay, you're going to fight Khabib. And you're not going to get that Conor money. And he held his ground for a little bit, but like, look, if you're Eddie Alvarez and you're going, okay, I can fight Khabib and, probably lose by wrestling and make, X amount of money, or I can fight Conor McGregor and, still probably lose, but then make 10 or 12 times the amount that I was going to make. I would hold out as long as I can too. But, essentially the day before, about 45 minutes before Dana White went on ESPN and announced it, that's when they finally relented, and Eddie gave in, his team gave in, and he made the right choice, man. Like, look, if you have a chance to fight Conor McGregor, it's like you said, it's red panty night. I mean, who wouldn't want that fight? You're going to make a lot of money. He wanted more guaranteed money. But I mean, I can't blame him for like holding out as long as he did. But at the end of the day, I think he probably made the right business decision for himself.
Wow. Before we get into discussing our thoughts on if this was the right move, I guess on the UFC's part, Jose Aldo has threatened retirement and has asked to be released from his UFC contract. This is obviously due to the UFC not making McGregor vacate his featherweight title belt now that he's fighting Alvarez. Jeremy, what do you think of Aldo's comments, and is this sort of the beginning of a big backlash from fighters in response to this decision by the UFC?
I mean, I think that Jose Aldo is, from everything I can gather, is probably, his heart maybe hasn't been in the sport for quite some time. And he has been talked into, kind of sticking around. But he's a different kind of dude, man. Like, he's not a fighter because he just has to fight or because he's got issues he needs to work out. I mean, it's what he does to pay the bills. And if your heart's not in it and you see that you're being overlooked and, quite frankly, I mean, the new UFC is a totally different animal than the old UFC. I mean, they're cutting back the amount of shows they're doing. They're cutting the roster down. They're cutting staff. Like it's there's a lot of uncertainty in what they're doing. And if I'm Jose Aldo and I'm looking at that and I'm going, okay, I mean, Dana White clearly is a liar, right? Like he said, I mean, you can never believe a thing the man says in public, but because he's a promoter. So like, when he says things are business as usual, they're not business as usual. When he says Conor has to let go of the title, he's not going to let go of the title. I mean, I think we've all figured that out at this point. And it took Jose Aldo a little while to figure that out. I guess he was holding out hope that there would be, that Dana would, give him the shot, the McGregor rematch on sporting grounds. But guys, the truth is this is a sport, sure, but like more than a sport, it's a promotional thing, right? The name of the game is prize fighting, like that you make the biggest fights possible. And I mean, frankly, not a lot of people are interested in McGregor and Aldo. The idea of McGregor going up and fighting for another title, that's a lot more interesting. And I mean, dude, I've been saying it. I think I said it on your show, and I've been saying it since last December before he beat Jose Aldo. Connor's never going to fight at 145 pounds again. He's never going to. He has before that fight, people in his camp told me that that was it. Win or lose, he was not fighting at 145 again because the cut was too hard. So I mean, Jose Aldo, I mean, I guess probably should have known that he couldn't trust Dana White. Dana White's going out there and saying that he's going to do something and that Conor, he's going to make Conor do something. Hey, Jose should have known that it was bullshit because, I mean, frankly, Dana has nothing to do with Conor McGregor's negotiations. I mean, he has not for quite some time. They don't have a relationship. They don't do the contracts together. They both of them attempt to try to pass it off in public like they're doing just fine. But I think everybody can pretty much tell now what I said late last year, early this year, that they're not fine. There's not a good relationship there. And when Jose Aldo, in July or when he heard, or August, when he heard that, his next fight's going to be Aldo or he's going to give up the belt, I mean, he should have known, but you can't blame a guy like that for, I guess, trusting in his employer. But at this point, I think, I don't know that we'll see him in the UFC again. I mean, they may try to get out of his UFC contract, and he may, try to go somewhere else. But I mean, truthfully, I don't know that we'll see him fight again. He's not that interested in fighting.
What? So just to clarify, this is not a negotiation tactic on Aldo. Obviously, maybe you can't, say yes or no, black and white. But in your opinion, you don't buy it as this is Aldo just lobbying for what McGregor did essentially a few months ago in his own sort of quote unquote retirement. This is Aldo is sort of legitimate, you believe?
No, I can tell you black and white. It's not a negotiation tactic. I mean, this is not what Conor did. Firing off a tweet saying he was retiring to try to force the UFC's hand. Although doesn't have any interest in forcing the UFC's hand, he feels like he's been disrespected. And yeah, it's not a negotiation tactic as of right now. That he's not going to fight again. I mean, or at least for the UFC. He's got enough money to live the rest of his life in comfort. I wouldn't be surprised, man. It'd be a huge shame, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him never return to MMA.
What do you make of the fact that Dana White claimed he wanted to see Conor McGregor face Jose Aldo, even though, according to Aldo, he was never offered the fight, and McGregor claimed that he was offered the fight 10 days before the press conference, which is around the same time that Dana said he wanted to see him against Aldo. Do you think there was really ever any intention of making this Aldo fight?
No. There's never been an intention, dude. I mean, unless it happens at 145. I mean, 155. And he's never going to fight at 145 again. They're aware of that. The UFC's aware of that. That Conor's camp has told them that. They can say what they want in public, just to be able to hold on to the belt for a little bit longer, so that he can win 2 championships at once. But he's not going back to 145. So anything, man. At this point, dude, I think you should know that anything that Dana White says is bullshit. Like, everybody should know that. Anything that guy says on interviews or whatever, he is in a state of constantly lying, which is fine. I mean, he's a promoter. That's his job. He does a really good job at it. but he's not. He's never telling the truth. He's never telling the truth, and it's actually amazing to me these days that I still see headlines on websites that Dana White says such and such. Like it's all a bunch of shit. He doesn't tell the truth, and he's constantly promoting, and he's constantly, the whole thing with George St. Pierre, for example, right? Like, he doesn't think GSP wants to fight. He's essentially calling GSP a pussy in public. And meanwhile, GSP is back in the USADA pool and is being tested and wants to come back to the UFC. He wants to fight. It's just that's a negotiation thing. He's claiming he doesn't want to fight. And so you have all these people, fans of the sport, who apparently have not been around long enough to know that you just can't trust a thing that Dana White says.
Well, the interesting situation right now is you mentioned that he won't go down to featherweight again. At the moment, he still has his belt. If he's not going back down to featherweight, are you expecting them to strip him of the belt after UFC 205? They mentioned that he's going to hold on to the belt through UFC 205, but it does seem like they want to take it off him. But in the press conference, we all saw Conor McGregor said they'll need to get an army to take the belts away from him. It doesn't look like he has any intention of getting rid of that featherweight belt. What happens with that featherweight belt?
Well, I mean, they can strip him if they want to. That's they can do it right now, and he can't do anything about it. They did it with John Jones, right? I mean, that's just one example. Yeah, but the thing is when Conor says they're going to need an army to get it off me, what he's saying is, give me a new contract. Look, so if he beats Eddie Alvarez, he wins the championship. I guarantee you he's going to relinquish that title, but he's not going to do it. I mean, it's not that he has any say in the matter, but as long as they give him a big raise, a big new contract, which he pretty much gets a new contract every fighter, every 2 fights, he won't raise a fuss about it. And if they do, if they don't give him a new contract, then it becomes another situation like we saw earlier this year.
I'm just curious because wouldn't it be a situation where they let Aldo know, though, that, hey, McGregor will be getting rid of that belt or we'll be stripping him of that belt, in the next few months? When they find out that Aldo wants to leave, would they somehow try and get that message to him that, hey, you're close to actually being the champion, the belt is almost away from McGregor? Or do you think for some reason they just haven't been able to communicate with Aldo on that level? Or do you think it's not that Aldo wants the belt, but he wants that rematch more than the belt?
I mean, I think he wants McGregor more than he wants the belt. I mean, he had the belt forever. But dude, I mean, the truth is, man, like they've never really communicated with Jose Aldo. I mean, there are very few of their fighters, unless you're on Dana's cool person list, and they don't talk to him. They go a long time without communication. And bottom line is, Jose Aldo is one of my favorite fighters of all time. Like I have loved watching that guy since early in his career, early in my career. But the truth is, they don't view him as he's never drawn a big buy rate. I mean, he has pulled out of fights far too often for their liking, and I get that aspect. And so, dude, they don't care about Jose Aldo. I mean, truthfully, they don't care about anybody that they have on their roster, but they really don't care about Jose Aldo. And so, no, I mean, I don't think that they're going to go out of their way to tell him that, to let him know, like, hey, everything's going to be okay in a few months. You'll get your chance to unify the title. I don't think they care about that. That's not high on their list of priorities.
It's interesting because if McGregor decides to stay at lightweight and then Jose Aldo decides to, retire and never fight again, you've sort of got this big gap at the top of the featherweight division. I'm just wondering, Jeremy, what do you think about obviously we know Jose Aldo's plans, but what do you think the UFC would do? And would they actually let him go and release him from his contract? Would they sort of force him to stay?
I mean, I don't think they're going to let him go. Well, you know what? To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. Because there's going to be a lot of roster cuts coming up because they're downsizing the amount of shows they're doing for next year. So that it's going to be a smaller roster. And maybe, it's a different era, man. This is not the kind of thing where Lorenzo and Dana just decide stuff together like they used to. I mean, this is Ari Emanuel and Patrick Whitesell, and they are cost cutting at the UFC. They are drastically reducing overhead, staff, everything. And so maybe it's a thing where they do let him go. They just decide to let him go rather than face a protracted lawsuit if that's the way Aldo decides to go, or to get any bad PR from keeping him under contract. Maybe they just decide to let him go. I don't know.
I've been working on a bit of a conspiracy theory, Jeremy, and I want you to weigh in on this. We're all looking at this as if Conor McGregor is going to beat Eddie Alvarez at UFC 205. Eddie's a tough fighter, and there's a good chance he may win. And we want to get your thoughts on that matchup in just a second. But if McGregor does lose against Alvarez, is that featherweight title as a backup plan for McGregor and what happens to him next? Because then at least he's still champion of the featherweight division. Or you think, because you've mentioned this a number of times, there is just no chance he's going to go back down to that division, even if he loses to Eddie Alvarez?
No, dude, I would be shocked if he goes back to 145, even if he does lose to Eddie Alvarez. Because for Conor, I mean, he's already won the championship. For Conor, it's not about because he's a smart man, he's a smart fighter, and he's a businessman. And for Conor, it's not about going down and defending the belt and establishing his legacy and all that stuff. Like, that's the stuff that MMA fans care about. But that's not what he cares about, man. He cares about making money. That's it. That's the be all end all. Making as much money as possible, because that's the name of the game. And he doesn't care about his legacy, so he doesn't have to go back down to 145. And that's the thing that people don't get. Like, I see all the complaining. He's holding up the featherweight division and blah, blah, blah. And he hadn't beaten anybody, even though he has, obviously. It was a fluke knockout. And, man, like, the thing is, like, do you think he does not give a shit about that? He does not give like, he wants the biggest fight. So if Conor beats Eddie Alvarez, I almost guarantee you his first title defense is going to be Nate Diaz at 155. I guarantee it. And, I mean, the truth is, like, why would he go back? I mean, why would Conor McGregor go back down to 145? So he can defend his belt against Max Holloway, who's never been, a great fighter, but never been in a pay-per-view main event. Why would he, to face Frankie Edgar, who's been in many, many pay-per-view main events and it's never been a draw? Like, those are not big fights. Conor cares about big fights. The big fights for him right now, until some superstar comes along, are at 155 and 170, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. Talk to us about this matchup, Jeremy. How do you sort of see it? Obviously, Alvarez claims it's the easiest fight that he could have had in the division. How do you see this fight
That's going? Ridiculous, by the way. That's ridiculous. Like, when he said that, I actually laughed out loud. Like, I like Eddie, and he's a fighter's fighter. But, the truth is I think McGregor gets it done in the first round. I think it's going to be a knockout because, Eddie has been – it's been proven that if you can hit Eddie right on the chin, he's going to go down. He may not stay down, but, you're going to hurt him. You're going to put him down. And like you can see even at the press conference the other day when Eddie was saying, you've got your little boy belt, and, like, I was cracking up because McGregor's like 4 inches taller than him, and it's way, it's way bigger. He's got Conor. People don't, because he is such an asshole sometimes in public, people don't give him credit for his fighting skills, but the truth is, like, he's a very good fighter. And he's faced better wrestlers than Eddie Alvarez and has beaten them. Nate Diaz was able to execute, getting him down and keeping him there because he's long, and shorter wrestlers just are not going to be able to do it to him. Actually, I have a admission that I haven't admitted anywhere else. Like, I still have not seen the rematch from August.
No,
like, that's kind of embarrassing.
You didn't watch UFC
202? Seriously, no, I have not, dude. I've seen literally like 4 fights since, not cards, but like 4 whole fights since UFC 200. I haven't been able to watch. So, like, I should probably watch that rematch before I, like, weigh in on my thoughts on this.
Wow.
The style versus style fight here. But, like, I don't see Eddie getting it done. I wouldn't say he has a weak chin, but it can be cracked, and I think Conor's going to crack it.
This is like Anchorman, where the dog eats the wheel of cheese. It's like, I'm not even mad. I'm impressed. I'm just curious, just for my own curiosity. Why did you not watch the rematch? Is it just work? Is it busy? Or have you just been? Have you discovered a 5th barbecue joint? Is that what's happened here?
No, dude. So the truth is, like, I really wanted to watch the fight, and I was super excited. But I had to go to a wedding in Tennessee, and like, not just in Tennessee, but it was about 2 hours outside of Nashville, Tennessee, which is in the woods. There's no internet. Like, there's barely electricity. And so, there was no phone service. I literally had no way of knowing what was going on. And so my plan was, like, okay, I'm going to stay off the phone. I'm going to stay off everything until we get back to, civilization. And then I will order it on Fight Pass and I will watch it, right? Later that night. Well, I mean, we didn't get back from the wedding until probably 12:30 in the morning. And I'm like, all right, like, I'm pretty tired, but, I want to see this. And so I pull up, the Fight Pass, and it spoils it right there on the homepage. And I was like, well, so much for that. I'm going to bed. So yeah, honestly, I have the fight. I've got it saved. I just haven't had the time, man. I hadn't had the time to dive into it.
Last couple of questions, Jeremy, because we know you're a busy man, especially now after knowing that you didn't watch that fight. So we don't want to take up too much of your time. You mentioned the UFC 205 press conference. I'm curious because there was a bit of trash talk back and forth. Obviously, McGregor had some classic moments, but Alvarez had his moments too. What are you expecting in the lead up to this fight? Do you think Alvarez could hang in there in the trash talk back and forth, or do you think McGregor gets into his head eventually?
Dude, there's nobody in the world except for Nate Diaz who can hang with Conor McGregor in the trash talk department. And when he's on like he was at that press conference, he's the best ever. I mean, I put him up. I mean, I think he's better than, like, the stuff that he was saying that day. Like, he was in a class of his own, better than Ali even, right? Ali had, like, his scripted lines and whatever, but he wasn't as quick on his feet. Wasn't able to come up with responses that quickly. I mean, look at poor Jeremy Stevens. Does anybody know if Jeremy Stevens is okay right now? Like, that guy, he got ruined. Conor absolutely destroyed him with what? Who the fuck is that guy? Like, that. I feel so bad for that guy. I hope he's okay. That's exactly right there. That kind of moment is what I'm talking about. I mean, that is it's a spur of the moment thing. Where that separate Conor's ability to do that, to respond quickly, to come up with stuff on the fly, separates him from the greats because they kind of scripted their lines and they had their their bits that they had to get out. He just comes up with it on the fly, man. So yeah, to answer your question, fuck no, Eddie Alvarez can't hang with Conor in the trash talk department, dude. Nobody can.
That's definitely a clear answer. Let me ask you something, Jeremy, because you know this next man that I'm going to ask about, and while you're talking about the best trash talk and Ali, who in your opinion is a better trash talker, Chael Sonnen or Conor McGregor?
It's Conor. And I say that, and Chael's probably going to get mad when he sees that when I said that, because he's a buddy of mine. But and we've worked with him. We worked with him in the past. We work with him in the future here at Flow Sports, doing some stuff. But Chael comes up with some cool lines, but a lot of them are old pro wrestling lines that he's lifted from 1970s and early 80s pro wrestling. In terms of just straight trash talk, spur of the moment trash talk, when Conor McGregor is on his A++ game the way he was in New York, he's unstoppable.
Final question, Jeremy, and we'll let you go. The biggest fight of them all, it seems like, for McGregor eventually, is a fight with GSP. What do you think? Do we ever see that fight happen? Is there a chance it comes together after this fight with Eddie Alvarez? What's your feel on this one?
Yes, I do think it happens. I don't know that it's going to happen immediately after this fight with Alvarez. I think his next fight with Alvarez is going to be Nate Diaz. Provided that WME IMG can come to an agreement with Reebok and with GSP, essentially, that will allow GSP to either wear no branded shorts or to maybe wear his Under Armour shorts, or if he wears Reebok, to pay him a lot more money, to compensate for sponsorship loss, then yeah, it's going to happen. And if I were a betting man, I'd put pretty good odds. Like I think it's going to happen, man. I think maybe it might be next summer before it happens, might be next July, but I think it happens.
Wow, exciting times. All right, guys, there he is, Jeremy Botta from Flow Sports. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Jeremy Botta. He has a ton of very interesting opinions. And check out Flow Sports at flowcombat.com for all your latest MMA news. They are a phenomenal site, just a huge, huge uprising in the last, year or so. Jeremy, we know you have a lot of exciting MMA events streaming live on the site, just a ridiculous amount of content. What's an event fans need to look out for?
Man, honestly, we have MMA events every single weekend. We have at least one, usually two, sometimes three, sometimes four live events every single weekend. So if you're the person that subscribes to Fight Pass and watches all these promotions that are not the UFC, then you'd like us.